what are the kinds of compelling uses of the web for teaching and learning. And we have some wonderful new technologies that have developed and become very popular with our students, yet as institutions we don't always embrace those technologies. So how do we provide ways to engage the learner, because I think there's 80,000 students in the Penn State system, and there's maybe 10,000 staff and faculty. So how do we really sort of turn it around so students can participate along with their families and within communities as well? So that was our thinking with this project.
We're also interested in the business of the university, so we want to try and modernize the business processes. I took a tangent here in creating this slide, and I had this a real-life example of what happens to a tuition check at Penn State University. It's truly remarkable, the path that it takes. So one of the opportunities that we have with going with a content management solution is just to try and smooth out the insanity in the antiquated business processes that we have. So if you don't know Penn State, you just got a couple of stats. It's a huge institution, and it's a bucket of organizations. There's a lot of there's colleges, there's campuses, there's departments, there's business units, programs, institutes, clubs, and they're all different. So the photograph up front on the right is a boot camp that we had at Penn State with Joel Burton, and the photograph on the left is a group photo of our administrative services unit, and so you can see that there are a lot of differences in the personalities of these kinds of organizations. Where are you going to go with that one?
Well, I've been at Penn State for way too many years, and I've seen how the organizations get very siloed, and particularly in IT, we have a hard time leveraging the amount of dollars that we're putting into IT. We have a central IT organization, and within it we have 6 silos. And what the idea of this project was to begin to break some of those silos down and unify those through the content management system, because everybody needs to maintain that content, but also sort of underlying that, we tried to think about, well, if we have a platform underneath this that we can plug other kinds of services into, like web service architecture of some sort, that we can begin to use it also as a delivery platform that would eventually unify these different organizations through a common platform. So there.
Sally, notice that we talked about web services. We're keenly interested in that. So, the buzzword for Penn State, if you want to picture Penn State with one word, the word could be hierarchy. Okay? Silos, hierarchy, that all goes together. So we got Penn State. Here's our brand new Santaplex website hierarchy that we're developing for training purposes. And this hierarchy is a lot different from the flat kind of an organization that Plone.org has. And so one of the bedrock principles that we started out this process with was that our group was not going to be a hierarchical group. Our group was going to be as flat as possible, and anybody who calls himself a manager is going to be a manager in title, but not in attitude. And what we end up with when we have a huge organization divided into lots of hundreds of organizations within an organization. We have an IT organization at Penn State, which actually is not an organization, but is hiding in these other little organizations in these little bunkers. The kind way of saying or of describing that is to say that IT at Penn State is distributed. What it is it's disorganized, and it doesn't collaborate. And because of that, we're losing a lot of opportunities for leveraging our collective resources. And I think what this slide really nicely shows is that we work very hard in our jobs to make ourselves comfortable in our silos. And so we do not want to move on. Okay. So, what the weblion project understood from the beginning, that our task was that we had a lot of changes that we needed to introduce in small bits at a time, small battlefields, changes that involve changes in behaviors and changes in structures. And I should note that the comparison with the idea of a web or any kind of an information architecture as being a kind of an ecosystem still works here with this kind of an example. And so, related to ecosystem studies, actually, when there became too many ecologists, some of them moved over into other disciplines and talked to engineers and so on. And they created theories called complex adaptive behavior and so on. And then when you give that an organizational twist, what you end up with is a concept called a learning organization. That's a really nice concept. That is what we are ultimately going for. That is, it's an organization that is agile, nimble, able to respond to changes in the environment, able to change in response to people's perceptions of what their requirements are. That's very important, because people in the beginning of a project don't really understand what their requirements are until they start getting some feedback. That is the classic, iterative, agile technology that open source projects are largely based on. What are you going to do with that? You have to understand that Mike just got off the boat. He was an hour and a half ago. He was on the road. He's never seen this show before.
Well, sort of. I've had a look at it last week as we were thinking about it. But when you think about this idea of policies, we have a lot of policies that we don't really need. I mean, we develop our own policies with basically trust as the model that we use to work with our partners, and we use a variety of vehicles to do that, and we'll talk a little bit about those later. But I think this slide here is a good example of the kind of ways of thinking that we're trying to get out of. We want flexible policies. In other words, we want to be able to adapt to opportunities and look for ways to use these technologies to encourage people to think differently about how to use the web. Instead of having sort of this Web 1.0 model, we want to move to 2.0 and beyond.
So just to add to that, policies can be a good thing if they're created with the right intent. Standards are a very good thing to have. Standards are the thing that open source projects are really good at following, because that's their lifeblood, is interoperability. And we also have standards for accessibility and things like that. So policies, standards, things like that are actually very good to have if you don't have policies like we only buy from Microsoft, or we will not buy open source. That sort of policy, those exist, they have to go. This applies to the web-based version of this presentation. There is actually on YouTube 400,000 hits right now. There's a rapper who's into web standards. He's pretty cool.
So decision-making is a really important part of governance, and unlike sort of hierarchies where you have a top-down kind of model in terms of how decisions are made, our model is to use the community to sort of direct our efforts. So decision-making becomes a very important part of how we deal with our various partners within our own institutions. Now, up until now, you know, everybody in the community has benefited, and we've benefited from the community, the outside Penn State community. And what we've tried to do is involve our partners in determining the directions that we take as a project group on campus, which it sometimes can be a little bit trying, but at other times, and most of the time, it can be really beneficial because we're really feeling the pulse of the community when we make a decision about what we're going to work on.
So we got to keep going here. By the way, if you do have burning questions, we're still giving you some background here, and we're going to get into some details very shortly. But if you have a burning question, please ask. If we get bogged down with questions, we'll have to move on. You know, so one of the great things that open source technology gives you is a rich variety of tools that support things like collaboration and organization and decision making. And so you know them all: IRC, version control, remote video streaming, all these kind of things. We use very heavily in the weblion project, and we use Plone. We use Plone as a model for our behavior. Very much down the line, basically, Plone sets the standards for the way we operate the weblion project. And ultimately, one of the most important aspects that we support is collaborations with our partners on a daily basis, but also with institutions, and we very much want to continue expanding our interactions with other institutions. One of the key secrets to the weblion business model is how we cast the role of the staff person in the project. So yes, we have to talk to the decision makers, but we also talk directly with the staff even before we're involved with the project. And one of the things that is important in a university setting is professional development. And that's one of the things that the staff value the most about the opportunity to work with us. But also it is that aspect of our program is something that we very heavily stress to the administrators, because the administrators, by and large, are good people, and they are aware of our president's mandate, actually, that they pay attention to staff professional development. So it's a very important thing on their minds. It's a very important thing on staff minds. It's one of those things that we like to stress as being an opportunity, a low-cost opportunity for administrators.
So this is one of those other videos. Some of you have probably seen this video here about how much a student today interacts with the web and the kinds of things that they do on the web. We have a number of different efforts to engage our student population through internships and a variety of different, wage payroll opportunities. I don't know, do you have any, what are some of the other ones? We have some other ones as well. But anyway, what we like to do is get them involved. We have a project right now to do a hosted service for the 700 clubs at Penn State. Prior to this, they've been using a web space, which basically means each group has to find a webmaster that can code up HTML. So what we've done is we've taken some of our hosting ideas that we're using with our partners, and we're starting to work with student affairs at Penn State to develop some core themed hosted solutions or templates that students can just plug in their information about their student groups and manage their own content. So we're pretty excited about this because it's an opportunity for us to really have a lot more interaction with the student community in a variety of different ways, both as teaching them to be knowledge workers within our community, and they love this opportunity to work with us, by the way.
Yeah.
Give them credit? You ever give students credit for learning?
It depends. We basically, the question was, do we give credit, or is credit available for student internships? That depends on the arrangement that we make with whatever college or program that we negotiate the internship with. We do have an intern, for example, from Robert Morris University in Pittsburgh, who is spending a couple of months with us and working full-time and getting paid. Are there any other questions? Now's not a bad time to find out if anybody's got any questions. Yeah.
How do you find out? I mean, do you do surveys? Do you have, experts come in? Do you do interviews?
Find out.
Discover how they're engaging, your website. How people of certain age groups are engaging or would like to engage with your website and your services.
That's a very hard question. We don't have the hard data now, but as we talk to our people, and what you'll see in just a few minutes is that we offer a package, and the offer is the whole package, or we walk. And part of that package is usability, and it's also testing. Now, testing, real useful testing for websites to find out what's on the mind of your users is still in its infancy. So we're just starting to understand how to do that, and we will be on top of that, and we will have current knowledge that we will be able to share with our people.
We also do annual surveys with students, faculty, and staff every year, and we integrate questions about the kinds of services that they're generally looking for when they come to our institution. Now, they may not be specifically oriented to the content management system, but we can actually implement some of those ideas through the content management system. And again, we actually have groups of students working with us on these services. It's not just us. It's a large part of it is being driven by the students and the kinds of needs that they see within the organization. The idea here is we start very, very small with something that everybody wants, and then we sort of build it out as we get more feedback, we test, and then we iterate off that.
We should get moving. We're running out of time, but can we pick up your question?
Yeah, do you guys have other competing things in your ecosystem? Like, are you using Sakai or something like that?
We use a lot of different systems, none of them coordinated, none of them are interoperating. And so that's part of this sort of silo effect. We're like ships on the ocean. And one other thing, maybe just to give you a flavor of what what we do, Mike and I are walking on the pavement constantly. I mean, we spend a lot of time unearthing, for example, internship opportunities. We talk to partners. We talk to current partners, we talk to prospective partners, we talk to people who are angry with us because they can't be a partner or for some other reason. So we are constantly talking to people, and that's an important source of information for us. And we do listen to what they ask for. One of the recurrent themes was that we don't have any IT staff, and so we need a turnkey hosting system. And based on that kind of feedback, we also have just unveiled or unleashed, depending on your choice of metaphor, a hosting service for the weblion. And this slide basically says that we are also obsessively concerned with making sure that our sites are accessible to as many people as possible. We are turning around the accessibility debate from one of creating good markup in your templates to paying attention to your content, because that's really where the accessibility issue now is in using modern tools. Okay. Here's basically, here is the meat of what our program is. All the other stuff is pretty much background information. What we want to talk to you about is our business model. And one of the things that we also knew we had to do right from the beginning was to make sure that our business model was agile, that it could respond to changes in the requirements from our users. We walk the pavement a lot. We talk with people, both in administration. Does this by any chance look like any of your administrators? And we also talk to the developers and designers and the people that are actually going to be doing the technical and content management work.
So both pieces of that equation is important. Oftentimes, what happens is we're talking to the people that are in the trenches. That's who we like to work with. They're the technical people. Maybe they're a sysadmin or a webmaster or a developer at a campus, and they pretty easily see the benefits of using a content management system. So what we do often is let them sell it up to their administrators, not us, by showing them the potential and showing them the resources that are available to them, and then we let them sell it up. And when they sell it up, then we come in and give a little dog and pony show for the administrators, and we get consensus from the bottom to the top rather than the top selling it down to the bottom, who basically we found that really just doesn't work very well.
We end up in a few religious wars when we talk to the soldiers, and so we at least are able to say, try it and see what you think, and don't worry about the high cliff. We can give you a leg over that. One of the things that especially we talk to administrators so that they can understand to influence their thinking about the web as not just a necessary evil and a cost center, but as a strategic asset. This is very important from the administrative side. We also kind of confront the technical staff with the reality that they are doing a terrible job of communicating their value in the enterprise to their management. Okay, when there are budget cuts, I can't think of a single manager who at least didn't think about the idea of cutting the web staff. It's really, we try to get people to appreciate, get the staff to appreciate that they have to sell themselves. They have to do a better job of marketing their importance. they get criticism from all kinds of directions, and they just have to get better at taking care of themselves.
We will assist them at doing that too. We provide them with here's the kinds of things you need to collect to show your administrator the value of what you're doing. So, you know, it's basically a partnership where we're working with everybody from the top to the bottom of the organization. And as a central IT organization, it's been incredibly useful to understand what the needs are across the institution, because once we get into the sort of the web community, we get into the system administrators that are running the system, and the networking, some of the networking and performance issues, and pretty soon we know everybody in the department. So as we grow, we got good contacts to find out what's going on the street.
So we provide a simple value proposition. We have a version for the decision makers, and we have a version for the staff. For the decision makers, we say, we can help you control costs, we can help you improve your web presence, we can help you achieve your business goals for your particular unit. To the people in the trenches, we say, we can help you with staffing problems, generally a shortage of staff. We can help you with obsolete tools. We can help you with efficiencies and all kinds of improvements in that way. And like I said before, we don't sell pieces. This is a binary decision, yes or no. They take the whole package, which includes help with the installation, help with customization of the site, and help with usability studies, information architecture, and certain questions of accessibility of content. And so a memorandum of understanding, it's not a legal document. It is a handshake, but it is an explicit handshake with a lot of detail. This is where we are able to customize our agreements with each of our partners. This is where we can require that their staff actually spend face time in our community, use our collaborative tools like version control, use our wiki for documentation, and generally become a participant in a larger community. And what this has enabled us to do is refuse contract work and expand capacity on our campus for people who are competent in using this system. Okay, so this is another Michael Wesch video. If you haven't seen The Machine Is Using Us, run, don't walk to your nearest functional network and have a look at the documents that are coming out of the digital ethnography program at Kansas State University. If you don't really understand, I mean, you can be forgiven for not understanding or not really quite getting all this Web 2.0 stuff. How many people use Twitter? It's not everybody, but it's a few. How many people use Instant Messenger as a tool at work? Yeah, okay, that's more. Please check this video out. Again, if I had a little bit more time and this were a web connection, I would have shown it to you. It's only a 5-minute video. What's that?
What's the name of the person who did it?
Michael Wesch. What is the name of the person who did the video? His name is Michael Wesch at Kansas State University. He's an anthropologist. So this is a small chunk of the weblion community at Penn State now because these photos contain some of our partners, and we're all helping each other. I mean, we're not the experts. We all have expertise, and we're all sharing it within our community. Are there any questions?
How how are you, how are you intending to address the 700 clubs issue?
How are we going to address the 700 clubs issue?
What, sort of, I guess, to extend that, how much control are you intending to give to the clubs themselves with a web presence?
Well, just as a background, where the web is going at Penn State with student organizations is off Penn State's campus, okay? So what we're trying to do is give them some tools to keep them there because, you know, if it's a fraternity and they put up images of hazing during their ritual in their fraternity, we have no way to ask them to pull those images off the web, and that reflects on the institution, and there are certain liabilities that follow that. So we give the organizations, you know, control of what they do. We give them a set of tools that they use that will be expanding to include all kinds of things. A way to announce their events, their organizational structure, a whole variety of different kinds of things of that nature. And they run their own website, not us. We're just hosting their website. And they have to sign with the university an agreement as to how they conduct themselves. So in this case, we can, if something happens and, you know, a site gets a lot of visibility for something it shouldn't, then we have the ability to remove it because it is on a university server and not on some third party.
I just wanted to mention that there's birds of a feather that you are not likely to have seen because it was just posted yesterday on the wiki. And that is for Plone in Education. We're looking for collaborations. We're looking at your needs. We're looking at ways to work together so that we can spread the Plone love. So we're out of time, but we'll be here for a few minutes if you got some questions. And the Birds of a Feather session is coming right up, so you can ask questions there as well. No, I don't know, and Matt Bowen just walked out the door. So,
Outside here, we'll figure out where we're going to go.
yeah, if you just meet outside the door, we'll find a home for us. Thank you very much. Oh, I remember. I do.
Nice chat. Great to see you here. Are you going to